Welcome to the European Association for Higher Education Advancement's YouTube and podcast channel.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're taking a deep dive into an article from the EAHEA itself titled, Why Teachers Should Give Less Homework to Students.
Interesting title.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That title probably sounds like a dream come true.
Yeah.
For a lot of students out there.
Probably a few teachers too.
But before we ditch the textbooks and head for the beach, let's explore why the EAHEA is making this bold claim. Could less homework actually lead to better learning?
It certainly is a thought-provoking question.
Let's find out.
And what's interesting is that the article goes beyond just complaining about homework overload. It really digs into the intense pressure of the modern education system. And how that impacts learning for everyone.
The article describes today's education system as this high-pressure environment where students are constantly pushed to compete and get the best grades. It's like they're training for an academic marathon instead of actually enjoying the journey of learning.
I see what you mean.
And the article argues that this relentless focus on achievement can actually be detrimental to genuine learning.
Interesting.
It's almost like we've forgotten that the goal of education is to spark curiosity and a love of knowledge, not just produce perfect test scores.
Absolutely. And it's important to consider the psychological effects of this constant pressure on young minds. When students are constantly worried about grades and performance, it can create a lot of stress and anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
And that kind of pressure can actually make it harder for them to focus, process information, and retain what they're learning.
Makes sense.
Not to mention, it can suck the joy right out of learning.
It's like trying to enjoy a delicious meal while someone's standing over you with a stopwatch.
I get it.
You're so worried about finishing on time that you can't even taste the food. And the article goes on to point out that not all students handle homework the same way. What takes one student a few minutes might take another hours.
Exactly. And that brings up the concept of differentiated learning, which is the idea that teaching and assignments should be tailored to individual student needs instead of a one-size-fits-all approach. Differentiated learning recognizes that students learn at different paces and have different strengths and weaknesses. The article even uses this powerful example of a student struggling with a worksheet packed with 40 math problems.
Oh, wow.
For some students, that kind of assignment could feel incredibly daunting and discouraging.
Oh, I can totally picture that.
Yeah.
You're already struggling with the material.
And
then you get hit with this massive assignment that feels impossible to finish. Talk about a recipe for anxiety and low self-esteem. And it's not just about the academic toll either. The article argues that excessive homework can also rob students of valuable family time.
You're hitting on a critical point here. Family time is absolutely essential for a child's development.
So we've got this pressure cooker environment, overwhelmed students and families struggling to connect. It's not exactly painting a rosy picture of the homework landscape. But here's where things get really interesting. The article suggests that by actually limiting homework, we might see an increase in the quality of work students produce.
Interesting.
It's like the old saying, less is more.
And there's actually research to back that up.
Really?
Studies have shown that more homework doesn't always correlate with better academic performance. In fact, some studies suggest that after a certain point, piling on more homework can actually lead to diminishing returns.
I see.
Students get burnt out. Overwhelmed. And
they start to rush through assignments just to get them done.
So maybe less homework can lead to better quality work. But what about the temptation to cut corners? I mean, if students have less to do, won't they just be more likely to cheat or rely on others to get the work done?
That's a possibility.
The article brings up this concern about shortcut temptation, and I think it's a valid one.
It's an important ethical consideration. If students are constantly feeling pressured to complete an overwhelming amount of work, they might be more likely to look for easy ways out. And that can create a slippery slope.
Oh, I see.
They might start to believe that the goal is simply to get the grade, no matter how they achieve it. And in the long run, that can really damage their learning habits and integrity.
So it's not just about the quantity of work, but the quality of learning and the ethical implications as well.
And speaking of ethics, the article also highlights how too much homework can actually erode the trust between students and teachers.
That's a great point.
It's like when teachers assign mountains of work.
Yeah.
It can send the message that they prioritize compliance over actual understanding.
It's almost like they're building walls instead of bridges.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want a learning environment where students feel comfortable asking questions, taking risks, and exploring new ideas without fear of being penalized.
Of course.
But when they're constantly stressed about deadlines and grades, it can be hard to foster that kind of trust and openness.
So what does the article suggest we do about this? If we really want to shift to a less is more approach to homework, where do we even begin?
Well, the article argues that giving students more autonomy and space can be incredibly beneficial.
Okay.
It's about trusting them to manage their time, to be curious, and to really take ownership of their learning.
I see.
And that shift in approach can create a much more positive and productive learning environment for everyone involved.
So it's about empowering students, not just dictating their workload.
Exactly.
That sounds like a much more engaging and respectful approach to learning.
It certainly does. And I think it's a concept that deserves further exploration.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
From the pressures of the modern education system to the potential benefits of less homework.
Yes.
But I'm really curious to delve deeper into some practical solutions and strategies for actually making this shift happen.
Yeah.
I think our listeners are probably wondering the same thing.
Probably.
What can students, teachers, and parents do to create a more balanced and effective learning environment?
It is the question.
That's something we'll be exploring in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right. So we've established that maybe less homework could actually be a good thing.
Yeah.
But the big question is, how do we actually put this into practice?
Right.
Teachers have lessons to plan.
Yeah.
Parents want to see their kids succeed.
Of course.
And students still need to develop good study habits. It's a bit of a puzzle, isn't it?
It definitely is. It's a balancing act, for sure.
Right.
And there's no magic formula.
Okay.
But the article does offer some really interesting starting points.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Okay.
What kind of approaches are we talking about?
Well, one of the key ideas is to really focus on quality over quantity when it comes to homework assignments. Instead of assigning tons of busy work, teachers could design fewer, more meaningful assignments that really push students to think critically and apply what they've learned in a more engaging way.
So it's about being more intentional with the assignments, making sure they're actually reinforcing the learning goals in a way that resonates with students. I like that. It makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And that might even involve giving students more choice and flexibility.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah.
Give them some ownership.
Right.
And let them tap into their individual learning styles.
Precisely. For example, instead of just saying, write a 5-page essay on this topic. A teacher could offer a menu of options.
I see.
Maybe students could choose to create a video presentation, a podcast, a piece of visual art.
Wow.
Or even write a song.
That's amazing.
As long as it demonstrates their understanding of the material.
That's such a great way to keep students motivated and engaged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of dreading homework. They might actually look forward to it.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it taps into their individual creativity and strengths. The article also suggests incorporating
more collaborative learning activities into the mix.
Teamwork.
Yes.
It's amazing how much we can learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Things like group projects and discussions not only lighten the individual workload, but also help students develop those all-important communication, collaboration, and problem-solving skills that are so valuable in the real world.
And it can help students feel less isolated and overwhelmed. Especially those who might struggle with independent work. I remember feeling so much more confident when I could bounce ideas off my classmates and work together towards a common goal.
It's a powerful dynamic.
It is.
And speaking of support,
Okay.
Another important aspect is making sure students have access to the resources they need to succeed with their homework.
So it's not just about assigning less work, but also making sure students feel equipped to handle it.
Exactly.
This could involve offering after-school tutoring programs, creating online study guides, or even just providing really clear instructions and expectations for assignments so there's no confusion or frustration.
That sense of clarity and support can make a world of difference.
Absolutely.
Especially for students who might be struggling or feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
When you feel confident in your ability to do the work, it takes a lot of the pressure off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, another key aspect of this less is more approach is recognizing the importance of downtime and balance.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't forget that students are human beings. Not just homework machines.
Exactly.
They need time to relax, recharge, and pursue their interests outside of academics.
They need time for hobbies, for spending time with family and friends, for just being kids.
Which, as we talked about earlier, is so vital for their overall development and well-being.
Absolutely.
If they're constantly stressed and overloaded, it's going to impact every area of their lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when they come back to their studies feeling refreshed and energized, they're much more likely to be engaged and productive learners.
It's like trying to run a car without ever stopping to refuel.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to break down.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
We can't talk about homework without talking about the role of parents.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Parents often feel just as much pressure as their kids when it comes to homework.
I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
Parents are worried about their kids' grades. They want them to succeed.
Of course.
And sometimes that can translate into putting a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
To complete every assignment perfectly.
Right.
It can create a lot of tension at home.
And that's why it's so crucial for schools to be really transparent with parents about their homework policies and philosophies.
It's about open communication and collaboration between teachers and parents.
Yeah.
So everyone's on the same page.
Right.
And working together to support the student.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And parents can also play a really active role in supporting their kids' learning by creating a structured study environment at home, encouraging good time management skills, and most importantly, fostering a love of learning that extends beyond the classroom.
It's all about creating that positive learning environment, both at school and at home, where students feel supported, encouraged, and empowered to learn and grow.
Exactly.
It takes a village, as they say.
It does.
So we've talked about focusing on quality assignments, offering choice and flexibility, incorporating more collaboration, providing support and resources, emphasizing downtime, and fostering strong communication between teachers and parents. It feels like all these pieces fit together to create a much more holistic and effective approach to learning.
It does.
But I imagine some people might be resistant to this idea. Change can be scary.
It can.
Especially when it comes to something as ingrained in our education system as homework. What would you say to those who are skeptical about this less is more approach?
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge that shifting away from a homework-heavy culture will take time and effort. It requires a collective willingness to experiment, to try new things, and to adapt based on what we learn along the way.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. But I think the potential benefits are huge. Imagine a learning environment where students are more engaged, more motivated, and more deeply connected to their studies, where teachers feel more empowered to design meaningful learning experiences that really resonate with their students, and where parents feel more confident in their children's ability to thrive, both academically and personally.
That sounds like an incredible vision.
It is a good vision.
But how do we actually make that vision a reality? Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first step is simply to start the conversation.
To open up a dialogue about the role of homework in education and how it can best serve the needs of students, teachers, and families.
Precisely. And this conversation needs to happen at every level. in classrooms, in schools, in districts, and even at the national level.
Wow, yeah.
We need to raise awareness, share research, and challenge those deeply ingrained assumptions about the necessity of piles of homework.
It's about shifting the culture of education towards a more balanced and holistic approach that prioritizes well-being and deep learning. Not just grades and busy work.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And it starts with each of us taking those small steps in our own spheres of influence.
Well said.
You know, I'm already feeling inspired to rethink my own approach to learning and how I support the learners in my life. This conversation has been so insightful.
I agree.
What are some of the key takeaways that stand out to you?
What really resonates with me is the idea that we need to shift our perspective on homework. Instead of seeing it as this necessary evil, this chore that everyone has to suffer through. What if we started viewing it as an opportunity?
Oh, interesting.
An opportunity to deepen learning, to foster creativity, and to build stronger relationships between students, teachers, and families.
That's a powerful reframing.
It is.
And I think it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for how we approach education. It's not about abandoning homework altogether, but about being more thoughtful, more intentional, and more focused on the needs of the individual learner.
Exactly. And that's what truly matters at the end of the day.
Well said. We've spent this episode exploring the idea that less homework might actually lead to more learning. And we've even touched on some strategies for making that shift. But now let's get really practical. What are some tangible things students, teachers, and parents can do to start putting these ideas into action?
I'm glad you asked, because this is where the rubber meets the road. Let's start with students. If you're feeling overwhelmed by homework, the first thing I'd recommend is to simply talk to your teachers.
That seems simple enough.
It is.
But I bet a lot of students are hesitant to speak up.
Probably.
They might worry about seeming lazy or complaining.
I understand that. But it's important to remember that teachers are there to support you. They want you to succeed. And they might not even realize how much pressure their assignments are creating.
That's a good point.
Just approach them respectfully. Explain how the workload is impacting you. And see if there's any room for flexibility or adjustment.
That makes a lot of sense. It's all about open communication.
It is.
And if you're struggling with a particular subject, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Good advice.
There are often resources available, like tutoring programs or study groups that can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
And don't underestimate the power of good time management skills.
Oh, that's so important.
This is something students can really take control of. Creating a study schedule, breaking down large assignments into smaller chunks, and prioritizing tasks can make a world of difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Those are great tips for students. Now, what about teachers? If a teacher's listening to this and thinking, okay, less homework sounds great, but how do I actually make that work in my classroom? What advice would you give them?
Well, as we discussed earlier, it all starts with shifting the focus from quantity to quality. Really think about the purpose of each assignment. Is it truly reinforcing the learning objectives in a meaningful way? Or is it just busy work?
And if it's the latter, maybe it's time to rethink that assignment or scrap it all together.
Exactly.
And don't be afraid to get creative with those assignments.
Have fun with it.
Incorporate more collaborative learning activities, project-based learning, or even opportunities for students to apply their knowledge to real-world situations.
Make it relevant.
Make it engaging and relevant to their lives.
Exactly.
Those are fantastic ideas.
Thanks.
And when it comes to assessing student learning, it doesn't always have to be about traditional tests and quizzes.
Explore alternative methods, like portfolios, presentations, or even student-led conferences where they can demonstrate their learning in a more dynamic and personalized way.
I love that. It's about giving students more agency and ownership over their learning.
Exactly.
Now, we can't forget about the important role parents play in this whole equation.
We can't.
What advice do you have for parents who want to support their children in navigating this shift towards a more balanced approach to homework?
One of the most important things parents can do is to create a supportive and structured study environment at home.
Provide that foundation.
Designate a quiet workspace.
Okay.
Minimize distractions and make sure they have the materials they need.
And as we mentioned earlier, communication is key.
It is.
Stay informed about your child's homework policies and expectations, and don't hesitate to reach out to their teachers if you have concerns.
Right.
Or notice your child struggling.
Exactly.
And most importantly, foster a love of learning that extends beyond the classroom.
Absolutely.
Encourage your children to explore their interests. Read books, visit museums, engage in educational activities outside of school.
Make it fun.
Help them see that learning can be fun and exciting.
Right.
Not just a chore.
Exactly.
That's such an important message.
It is.
So we've got practical tips for students, teachers, and parents. But for those who want to dive even deeper into this topic, where can they go for more information and resources?
Well, as you mentioned, the European Association for Higher Education Advancement, which published the article we've been discussing, is a fantastic resource.
It is.
Their website is a treasure trove of information on educational best practices and innovative teaching strategies.
And there are so many other great organizations and resources out there.
There are.
A quick online search for homework alternatives or balanced education will yield a ton of helpful information.
And don't underestimate the power of connecting with other educators, parents, and students who are passionate about creating positive change in education.
It's about building that community.
Attend conferences, join online forums, share your experiences, learn from each other, and advocate for policies and practices that support the well-being and success of all learners.
That's so important.
Remember, this is a movement, not a moment.
I love that.
It's about working together to shift the culture of education toward a more balanced and holistic approach.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has been.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We hope you found it thought-provoking and inspiring.
I hope so.
Remember, change starts with each of us taking those small steps in our own spheres of influence. Let's work together to create a more balanced and joyful learning experience for everyone.
Absolutely.
Please don't forget to follow the European Association for Higher Education Advancement on YouTube and social media.